All right, everyone, we start off today with a mild proposal, which is that it isn't private individuals who are too materialistic. Well, I mean, to an extent, depending on what you're buying. It isn't corporations that are too greedy. It isn't that people should have to tighten their belts or that corporations should have to pay massively more because, of course, that means everyone else pays massively more. It's actually the government that needs to pay its fair share and learn to make do with less. I'm talking about a significant cut. I think that federal government should be cut by half at least. I think that would be a pragmatic, very moderate libertarian position to take, actually. Some of those crazies out there, those fanatics, want to cut it by 90%. I'm just saying 50%. Imagine that you had to pay half as many taxes. Or like a 30% reduction. The rest can go towards slowly paying off decades of accrued debt so that we can finally be financially solvent. Yes, I know that's economically disastrous because the growth will stop if you don't continue to destroy your own people's wealth and savings. This is what Keynesianism appears to teach. But despite the bluster you hear from leftoids about how it's basically like Bernie Sanders especially, about how corporations need to stop paying their fair share, Jeff Bezos doesn't pay any taxes. Tesla doesn't pay any taxes because he's hoping that you don't understand, and most people don't because they don't deal with business taxes or capital gains. It's like businesses aren't taxed the same way as personal income is taxed. Bernie Sanders hopes that you won't understand this because 99% of people aren't engaged in that sort of thing. They have a normal wage or salary. They have personal income taxes they're taxed. Basically, only in the top 5% are you going to find people with any other taxation, unless they're like me, and they're really unfortunate, and they're the ultimate whipping boys for the whole fucking government. And we pay a 15% surcharge on the first $100,000 of self-employed income before even a normal application of income tax. So, actually, it's a much higher level than even people who make 10 times as much, in some cases, pay, depending on where the taxes are coming from. Well, I liked it when Donald Trump gave us tax cuts because there was a 20% write-off of qualifying income if it was having that double tax applied to it. I liked the fact that all the brackets dropped, especially in the middle. I mean, it was great. There's a reason why we're not in a depression right now, and it was due to Trump economics bolstering things before Biden decided to destroy everything, and the various lockdowners in the blue states, of course, as well. Government's the problem. Corporations should make more money. That's the one thing that they do that isn't abusive is having a good profit. That's a good thing. It's good for shareholders who then invest and so forth. They buy goods. That supports workers. It's good for the workers. Ultimately, if the corporation's not doing well, workers start to become unemployed. And Bernie Sanders and idiots like that, again, hope you won't understand this. The corporations are engaged in all sorts of abuse. Amazon and all of these others, censorship and abuse of in the environment in some cases, certainly abuse of human rights on foreign soil. Look at what Crapple does. 12-year-old child slaves build your iPhone. I don't hear anybody among the leftoids in D.C. worrying about that fact. They all have iPhones too. They're Crapple products. They're addicted to them. But they're very worried about the amount of money that Tim Cook makes. As long as these corporations, I guess the idea of the left is that corporations should be perpetually insolvent and everything else is perfectly fine. They can abuse as many third worlders as they want. They can grift and make shitty products and sell you a lemon as long as they don't make too much of a profit doing it. kind of a weird juxtaposition. But despite corporations potentially being abusive, and despite what I would admit, which is that there is wanton materialism among even the lower classes, a lot of people have a lot of shit, a lot of clutter that ultimately they do not need, and no reasonable person, by the way, would want. Right? Buying fucking Funko Pops or whatever. It's horseshit. It's the ultimate meme of materialism for the trust fund gamer grease bags, basically. I just don't understand it. Never will. Basically, you might as well collect chia pets. At least you can grow some chia. There's actually a use to them. When you get done, grind up the potsherds, put it in your garden soil. It's actually good for it, depending on the composition. Buff it up a little bit. But government, despite all of those problems, materialism and greed and corporate abuse, government's the worst. I love it when you say, when Bernie Sanders will say, well, it's obscene that someone should have billions of dollars It used to be he would say millions of dollars, but then he became a multimillionaire. So now the millionaire class is home free. So if you have millions of dollars, Bernie Sanders considers you, I guess, middle class, because he's got no self-reflective qualities whatsoever. He's a complete jackass, by the way. He's also an asshole. Just so that people know, he's not a very kind person. They still think that he's fighting for workers' rights. So he's fighting for communism, basically. He's a retard. But Bernie Sanders will tell you, it's obscene that there are billionaires. They shouldn't exist at all. Meanwhile, he's perfectly fine with a multi-trillion-dollar government budget that includes trillions of dollars in excess spending, including, when's the last time he complained about the military budget? That used to be, by the way, a perennial grift for the left. Well, we pay too much for the military. Oh my God. Hundreds of billions of dollars in wasteful spending. Making, this weapon system that doesn't pan out in some cases, and wasted $50 trillion and stuff like that. They used to complain about this back in the 90s or the 2000s. Around the time Obama becomes president, they stop complaining. Well, no, it's the corporation's fault. Elon Musk, how many fucking people have jobs because of Elon Musk? In Texas at the moment, I believe. How many people have jobs because of all of these supposedly evil billionaires? And many of them are very good paying jobs. I like it when the big government's loving crowd, again, we'll default to Bernie, complains especially about Amazon. Because another one of the grifts for Bernie is we need a $15 an hour minimum wage. It's already the starting wage at Amazon. I realize it's not nice maybe to work in a company where you have to piss in a bucket because you're not allowed to take bathroom breaks only maybe once a week or something. Yeah, there's some problems there. But they're still, the only thing they really care about, they'll bitch about that for 5 minutes, then they'll go back to a 2-hour rant about how it's evil that they profited. How dare this company that was allowed to stay open and continue to operate during a situation where we locked down 90% of their competition, how dare they make money? How dare they expand, by the way, gobbling up more of the workforce? How dare Walmart make major profits? You want to hear something surreal? The little grocery section in Walmart was one of the few commercial spots in all of Rutland that remained open during the initial lockdownerism that we saw 2 years ago. The mom and pop store closed, restaurant closed, bike shop closed, gym closed, barber shop. Literally all the small businesses, half of them, don't exist anymore, including the local dairy. I made a video on the subject. I was very, very sad about that because they had the best milk. And when the dairy is only like a half a mile away, you can actually see the cows and you know that they're healthy and your milk's not coming from squalor and animal abuse. During that period, though, the little grocery section Walmart was allowed to stay open. State after state did this, including states run by nominal Republicans like Rhino Phil Scott, etc., etc. And the federal government encouraged it. And the Trump didn't. Biden has. The Dems demanded it after initially saying party in Chinatown. And then they want to talk about record corporate profits. They helped create them. It's the government, though, that needs to make do with less. They should have half as much power. I would argue much less than that, but we'll just be pragmatic here and go with mild reform. Get rid of half of the federal government's power, half of the federal government's budget, and refocus it on the handful of things that really the federal government even needs to be involved with. Military and diplomatic affairs, generally speaking, and basic regulations and infrastructure. That's basically it. There's no other purpose to their power. Everything else that you conceive of as necessary can be devolved to the states or to private groups because the states will fund it if they want to. It's perfectly fine. And if people really want it, if it really works and is so great, it doesn't need to be mandatory. People will spontaneously generate it. It's like the concept of Social Security, a lot of time, which by the way is not socialistic because it's a pay-in, take-out system. I'm not claiming to be the abolish the Social Security type. I want to abolish all the other social welfare spending. Social Security, I just think that you should be able to opt out of it or there should be a private option because I know how to invest my money and time far better than the government knows because I actually care about myself. Government sees me as a few numbers. With Social Security, if it's so great and so wonderful, if you were to get rid of the federal program, what would happen? States would create programs that were similar and private groups would create programs that were similar. You'd still have Social Security, you just have a voluntaristic choice whether to be part of it, because you wouldn't have that top-down government entity massively funding it and effectively stealing your money and then promising that if you live long enough with a lowered budget and therefore for the working class, worse conditions, a little less clean a house, a little less nutritious food and stuff, if you make it to what the fuck ever age it is in the coming years, I suspect it'll be age 1000 pretty soon. Oh my god, we invented cybernetics that'll allow your brain to sit in this case for 500 years and still be nominally alive. Well, we think that 400 years is reasonable. So if you don't want your brain in a jar, you just pay in like a slave to the brain cult, I suppose. This would make sense, by the way, by government. No reasonable individual would think that was anything but a hyperbolic joke. Government would actually have papers. They'd probably be classified, seriously considering the proposition to save money, aka steal it from you. And that's really the point that I would make here. Government budgets measured in the trillions of dollars. So for a single year's operation, the total net value of Tesla and Amazon and Apple and Walmart and McDonald's and all of these other big corporations combined is still smaller. It's not you that's greedy. Well, some of you are. It's not the corporations that are making too much money and they're keeping it out of the hands of the working class. It's the government. I love that meme where it shows like the supposed evil capitalist with the top hat and he's got a huge plate of cookies in front of him and he's pointing to a dude who's clearly like a middle-class white dude and he's got one cookie and he's pointing at the other dude who's like the black knight janitor. Of course, there's an insinuation of race here. And he's like, watch out, he's going to steal your cookie. Well, really, the person with a top hat's government, the person with one cookie is private industry, and the other is everyone else. That's basically the reality of it. It's not the evil random rich person, it's the evil rich people that have political power. They're the real problem. And some of the larger landlord class groups like BlackRock and Vanguard. That's about all. Peace out.